What about if you're in an area where there's these new communities that maybe are still being developed? Is
Hmm.
there anything you can do as an agent to get in early? There may not be a model home. Maybe there's not a sales office might be there, but not a lot for you to show.
Hmm.
What can we do to be an
Well,
early?
often the builder will put you on a waiting list and say, here's what the answer to this. Sometimes you'll get in and you'll find out about a community. They don't even have the pricing. They don't even know because sometimes they're waiting. They're waiting to find out what the latest data is of seeing what's the maximum they could do on their margins. So that's one of the big things that people should try to get themselves acclimated. And that's where talking to the local consultant will help is find out what's their margin. So if they have a house for 450, what is that price range that they're really flexible with? What are they making on each house? So that's something some will share with you, some won't. And once again, I said that's a relationship where once you show your value to that person in that seat at the builder, they'll share more with you. The more people you bring in, the more you're easing their burden. You are helping their job. Most of them love it when you just bring somebody in, they'll take it from there. And new construction, as we talked about, is inventory is low. It's also one of the easiest sales you're ever going to make because not only are you bringing that person in, they are finishing off all that little tiny paperwork behind the scenes. You're not writing up the contract. You are not doing that follow up. When you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing for your customer, are going to keep them up to date as that build starts or that closing gets ready. But you also have an ally in that person sitting in the seat at the builder who's doing the same things. So it's kind of like a tandem effort, and it's almost like a community effort. So it really is a great vehicle to sell in.
So you mentioned the margin and asking the builder, what that is. Why is that important?
It lets you know how comfortable they are with going off asking price. So, for instance, if a home is listed at 510, is it possible to get that home for 490? And you can find a lot of places they will not negotiate, but they'll negotiate in other ways, like we talked about closing costs, like we talked about in upgrades. And there are some builders, depending on time, depending on what they need on in that particular month, that particular quarter, that particular year. When they find that you need, or when you need that, they're going to actually probably say yes to certain things. Possibly we can go this low. However, we need a ready, willing, and able buyer, which means they need that check in hand. They need to know that buyer is going to buy on a certain date, and they need to know that that buyer is qualified, ready to go, and is going to close on the date that they need. So oftentimes they'll say, hey, let's get them qualified with our local lender, our in-house lender. Let's get them qualified. Let's do all this stuff. If they're ready and they have a check ready, um, we think we can make that deal. They're oftentimes they're gonna it's a negotiation. So oftentimes they're not going to show their hand. They're not going to say yes 100%. I've had communications where I knew that the builder had flexibility, but that local rep did not know that. They might have been new on the job or whatever. And it's always on a friendly basis, as most negotiation is. Hey, could you ask your local sales manager, just run it by him or whatever? And they get on the phone with them and they often find out, yeah, he said he'd do it today, but you got to have him, they got to be signed by 5 o'clock today or whatever the need be. Because like
Mhm.
everything, they see the numbers. It is the building industry, especially with the large builders, is a corporation and they see the numbers. So they need to know what they're going to mean. They have shareholders. So they need to know what they're going to, what the performance is every week, every month, out of a certain community, out of a certain region. So it's very corporate. And if they need two homes to sell in this community by the end of the weekend, and you happen to be the one who hits them up, you might get lucky. You might not get everything, but if you don't ask, you don't get.
This is true. So, what would you do if you wanted to become the number one agent in a particular community? Is there kind of a roadmap that you could lay out? Like, here's what I would do.
It's typical farming. You want to make sure that you are dominating that particular community. They're seeing you every other week, whether it be through mail, whether it be through social media, whatever it is.